Good afternoon. I'm Scott Forcino, an associate broker with Real Brokerage based in New York City and the metro area. I founded PlugIntro so real estate professionals can meet who they should know and offer us the same opportunity. We have with us today Jessica Wells, a very important colleague from Clear Choice Mortgage in Washington State. I really want to hear how she runs her business and how she offers clients and colleagues and referral partners the best service and insight into the lending industry. Good afternoon, Jessica.
Hi, Scott. So my name is Jessica Wells. I am the broker owner here of Clear Choice Mortgage. I've been in the industry since 2004, originally as a processor until about 2015. And then in 2015, I bought the Clear Choice Mortgage brokerage from my partner who had started it together and got my originator's license at that point. So I've been originating for almost 8 years in June, but I've been in the industry for 19 years next month.
Impressive. So you know your stuff. So what's up? And it's now March. Actually, it's almost the end of March 2023. What's been your experience with this rise in rates and transactions and how clients are reacting?
The rise in rates kind of slowed down business a little bit for the beginning of the year, but I'm really seeing a big pickup right now in new home sales out there. I've got a lot of people out shopping right now for new homes, and I've seen a lot more activity going on with mortgages, even with the rates still in the higher than they have been in the most recent couple of years. There are still quite a few people out there shopping.
Are they? I mean, I'm sure your clients are looking for a lower priced home now than they were a little more than a year ago, right?
Yeah, the interest rates being up definitely affect the buying power of the borrowers, especially on the tighter files with the lower level of homes. You know, Washington State has a pretty high average median home price. I think we're at like $490 right now in my area. And so the people that are first-time home buyers are the ones that are the most affected right now because they're trying to keep it down in the 300 range. And with rates where they're at, it kind of limits their buying power a lot.
And what has been the reaction with the agents? I mean, I guess you were speaking to them constantly, keeping them aware of these changes so they don't overshoot the client's budget?
Yeah, we'll update. I usually do my updates on my pre-approvals like once a week. If I see rates make a big jump, I let everybody know and kind of go through and update all my pre-approvals so that way they know what they're shopping in. And it hasn't affected it huge. I'm usually pretty conservative with my pre-approvals, so I don't try to push people to the edge of their limit. So even if the rate does bump a little bit, it won't affect what they were out there initially shopping for.
Okay. That's a big deal. Have you been engaged in any type of collaborative transactional approach where sellers are contributing towards buyers' closing costs?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot more of that this year. In 2020 and 2021 during COVID, we definitely weren't seeing concessions from hardly ever, maybe 1 out of every 20 deals. My last probably 3 months worth of deals, or even the end of last year, where probably about 90% of the deals are getting sellers to contribute some portion of closing costs or concessions. Very few of the borrowers, even if they have the money to pay their own closing costs, they're just asking sellers, and it's saving them money in their pocket at this point.
I see. I think that's a great way to approach it. When you say concessions, do you mean a seller's concession, which requires an appraisal, or contribution, meaning just out of the seller's pocket?
Just the seller's paid closing costs, basically, not necessarily a straight concession, but just seller paid closing cost credit.
Yeah, I appreciate that approach very much. I've done that where and one of the reasons why you would hire me is I would say, hey, to the seller, those annoying price chops, which don't do you any good because that's mythical money out there you don't have in your pocket. Let's push that across the table instead of just pushing it into the sky. And that is a really, really attractive situation where if this seller now has a property that has a lower monthly payment than the competition.
Yeah, exactly. We've done a lot. I've done several this year of like a 2-1 buy down where the sellers will give a bigger credit for closing instead of dropping the price. One of them, we got $25,000 in credit on a $500,000 deal. So we were able to use that money to buy down their interest rate for a temporary rate buy down for 2 years. And so it got the buyers in an initial lower payment. And then come 2 years, hopefully rates are in a spot where they can refinance. And if not, either way, they can still afford the main payment, but it saves them for the first couple of years.
When you say drop the price, I don't mean drop the price. You mean to say drop the price and allocate that money across the table. Is that what you mean? Actually,
right. Instead of, if you compare like dropping the price from 500 to 475 or leaving it the 500 so everybody sees that it's sold at 500 and giving a $25,000 credit, it works really well for the buyers that way.
Right. But so what's the maximum this seller can actually push across the table as far as discount points?
It depends on the program. Conventional programs, they can only do 3% unless the buyer's putting down more than 10%. If they're doing more than 10%, then the seller can contribute up to 6%
Wow.
in credit. And then FHA has a 6% limit across the board. VA actually has no limit on the amount of closing costs the seller can pay. There's 4% in concessions allowed, and that would be for other items, even things as much. VA allows them to pay off credit liabilities and things like that with those. With the
Yeah,
credit.
I think it's powerful. I think I may disagree with you though. How about that? I think it's maybe a robust debate here. I would rather, and I've done this, where the seller and the listing agent have control, and they decide that no one else even has this information, and they talk at the kitchen table and they say, "Listen, let's push the money across the table instead of just wasting it with a price reduction." Where the 3-2-1, now you have a buyer that's got to get it, a buyer's agent that's got to convey it, the seller's agent that's got to accept it, and then the seller's agent that got to explain it, and the seller might be drunk on 2021 values and said, "I'm not," so you have like 4 or 5 pieces of friction. That's why I tell people, let's never do that, because when you're the lender, you're in your office, you have no idea how they're describing this on via text.
Right.
There's no control.
Exactly. Yeah, we actually, beginning of the year, I held a agent class that was on 2-1 buy downs or 3-2-1 buy downs and explaining it to them how it worked. And it's not something that a lot of people could understand, and it's difficult. My favorite approach would just be to get them to pay the closing costs and do a full buy down of a discount point or something like that, instead of the 2-1 buy down, because that is a temporary solution. You're looking at hoping that it stays for 2 years and then hoping that the rates are going to come down at the end of that. So my preferred method would just be a full buy down or just covering the closing costs, basically.
Yeah, I'm with that. And I think, and I totally agree with that. And there's, I was describing that temporary buy down, and that means that people may live a little bit better. They may be a trip to Disney. They may be eating out more. And then reality hits them of what their actual payment for which they qualified. But then there's really 2 more pieces of reality. You don't know what happens with the taxes, and you don't know what happens with the insurance.
Right.
So your bank hits you with an escrow account analysis, and here we're going to divide it over 12 months, and there's no option to not pay that.
Right.
There's no
Your
way out of
payment goes
that.
up $200 a month or whatever with no
Or
options.
more. Right.
Or
So
more,
yeah,
depending on where you're at.
right. That's a lot to consider there. That's a lot of. So I think that's very temporarily putting someone in a better position. I like your solution better. But one thing I know, a gentleman who described, instead of you offering this program and explaining it, a lot of people like yourself, tell me if you've done this, are there every step of the way. They'll be on the phone with the buyer's agent. They'll be on the phone in the communication with this listing agent, et cetera. They're kind of just put their information. They just are involved every step.
I do a little bit. I keep in touch when I have an offer going out through one of my buyer's agents. I'll send a video and introduce myself to the listing agent, go over my pre-approval letter. So I like to be in front of them in the very beginning, and then I'll stay in contact with them as the offer is getting accepted. I'll reach out and make sure the seller doesn't have any questions, because I would rather them ask me the questions than the agent that can't explain how the 2-1 buy down works or whatever it is that we're asking for. So I try to stay in front of them. Some of my agents don't really like me communicating with the listing agent as much as I would like to. But as much as possible, and to keep my relationships, I will keep in touch with them and try to keep off their toes. I don't want to negotiate for them.
Well,
but
I find that surprising. Why not deal with the person who can basically, you're the salesperson, and why this is a good idea.
Right. Yeah. I have one agent who's just like, I don't like when you call the listing agent. And I was like, but I want to explain this, and I want to sell why I'm doing this for my buyer and why it's a beneficial thing for everybody. And he lets me now, but in the beginning he's like, don't call them.
Well, I could see that it could be viewed as a reduction of their authority or their representation. But I mean, you're basically an expert witness. I mean, I wouldn't want to, right? I mean, why not if I had to bring a dentist in, I bring a dentist in. If I had to bring a car mechanic, I can't do that. So I'd rather have someone say, if I'm the seller, I don't get it. Why do I got, you explain, here's why. You'll sell the house and you have a lower monthly payment for the buyer and make it easier to sell, and you're the winner.
Right. Exactly. And I can explain it. I've been doing this for 19 years. It rolls off my tongue. I can tell you how it works. Where you trying to explain it to your buyers or your sellers is not going to be as clearly communicated.
Right. Good point. I mean, let's, everyone should stay in their lane, right? I mean,
Yep.
give the ball to the pro. That's that. Well, that speaks to the topic I've been saying since really last year when this happened. These deals are much more relational than transactional. You
Agreed.
can't sit by in the sidelines, kind of like a diva. If you're the seller, highest and best at 5, and don't look at people. That's
Yeah,
over. You have to
exactly.
get your hands dirty and think about getting to the finish line, and then everyone's satisfied.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Everybody has to work together. The deals are not falling out of the sky like they were 2 years ago. We don't see. I still have a couple people that have been getting outbids by cash offers in the last. I've seen it more in the last 2 weeks than I have the rest of the last 6 months again. But it's not like 2020. They're not just. You don't put your house up and a day later it's sold. That's not how it's going right now.
Right. The days on market I was with a bunch of really important professional realtors yesterday, and I was not surprised, but it was interesting to learn that days on the market is the number one distinction from the prior market. It's not price, really.
No, we haven't seen. I mean, we haven't seen a price drop around here. There's been some correction. There was some stuff up in Seattle that people had listed for ridiculous prices because people were paying ridiculous prices. So I've seen a little bit of a correction up in that market, up in that county, but mostly down here, stuff has stayed level and even gone up from where it was last year at this time. So I don't foresee that we have a sky is falling issue with values or anything happening.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, how would, based on, just raw numbers, if I'm the seller and you're the buyer and I say, you know what, I was properly advised, instead of fooling around with price reductions, the house is 500,000, 5% is 25,000. I'm just going to help the buyer and give them 5%. They're only putting 10% down, so they can't have 5%. I could give 3%, and then I could pay for closing costs like title and taxes, et cetera. What would that 3% do as far as a rate for the buyer? How much would that reduce that rate? By what? By how much? Point?
Yeah, generally, if you can't put all 3% towards a discount fee. There's some requirements on how much can total be charged to the buyer on the broker side, or even if the seller's paying it. But I would say if you got 3% in credit, you could buy your rate down probably a good half a point from where its par rate is, and cover all the rest of their closing costs, because the full 3% can cover appraisal, title, everything else, but we can only do about 1.5 towards the buy down itself.
So you're saying that, the general rule I knew was 1% paid. Let me think about this. 4% paid got you a 1% lower rate. So 4 points gets you 1% lower rate. Is that fair, or am I crazy?
Generally, yeah, because it really depends. There's so many different factors that go into the rate that you're choosing between their credit score and different programs and whatnot. So I would say a good general rule of thumb is probably about 4% can buy you down about a whole point. Right.
And I've been conservative. I tell them, listen, it won't be 1. It could be 1, but let's just think it should be 0.75. It should be 4 points should pay you, and if that's permissible. So, they realize that they're going to be saving money if they're there 10 years, 120 months at lower rate. That's, how could a seller's house not be the most attractive property on the market? With a lower payment, where a realtor can put this in the agent remarks, can put this on the MLS, it can be seen on Zillow. This house comes with a lower payment, makes you more attractive because the decreased monthly payment is tied directly to you, the lender. The agents can write anything they want, but you're going to make it happen.
Exactly. That buying the rate down, the ability to be able to do that can give a buyer more buying power even too. Maybe they can give you the full price offer because you're willing to pay their interest rate down a little bit. And now they have that couple $1,000 extra, $10,000 extra in a full price offer and can actually offer it on that property.
Definitely. And they may want to paint, and they may want to do things that normal people do, buy some furniture. Come on. Right. You have to do that. What house doesn't need any work? Plus, this puts you in a great position because you now have this, this amazing tool, an amazing way to positively influence the deal. And you're an expert, and the realtors have not been doing this until they just got their feet wet in this new market, and they're now pivoting towards another approach. So this is, I'm thinking from you that this would be a great way to let realtors know that you have this little system where they can get more listings because they can actually guarantee, think about this, they can guarantee a lower payment for the seller's buyer. Think about that.
Yeah, that's a big guarantee, and that will help attract a lot more buyers, and more agents can look at your property if they think that that's going to happen.
Right. I mean, where can you say guarantee? This you can say guarantee.
Yeah. If this seller is contributing towards this, it's guaranteed going to be a lower payment than what I could quote you if we didn't have seller credit. So 100%.
Right. It's a guarantee, and every bank will take discount points from the buyer, the seller, the agent, me, Santa Claus, or Mickey Mouse. You'll take it.
Exactly.
Right?
Always. They like their money. They'll take it from anybody.
Banks will take money, and they must reduce the rate as a result.
Right. It's
amazing.
A fact. It has to be done. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. If I was a lender, I would bang that drum 24 hours a day.
Yeah. No, that's definitely something that I need to add to my social media marketing posts and get that out there in front of
No,
people.
even better, you're now explaining it professionally. Let's create your intended audience so they are in it with you. Should be your VIP, the people who are in the mastermind, the think tank, who say, wow, Jessica knows what you're talking about. And then on top of that, you're going to give an agent a way that they could tell their clients who have no idea about this.
Yeah, let's put a game plan and structure this and figure out how to make every deal like this. We can get it
I
going.
think so. And sellers have to be educated and say, look, this is not what it was. If you didn't sell, you missed the boat. Sorry, but you have a lot of good value anyway. And you know that this is a big thing. This is I'm really happy that this is a system that's out there now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that we weren't seeing 2 years ago, and in the last 6 months, it's became a real thing with agents being able to get seller concessions from sellers. It helps, or credits, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I call it a contribution, a true contribution, because I've dealt with, maybe hundreds of sellers concessions, but the problem there is you have the possibility of the appraisal. Now you have a third party coming in who doesn't have any idea of the area. It's not like the old days where they live in your backyard. Now someone could mess up your plan.
Yeah, no, the true concession word is not the right word to be using there. It's just because that does. And the underwriter has to look at it. They have to prove what you're doing for the concession. The appraiser has to approve it.
Good point.
So that makes it a whole nother level of stress to that.
I didn't even think of the underwriter. Right. I didn't even think the underwriter's the bad guy. So we have to keep it out of their hands.
Exactly. We would like the least amount of friction between the underwriter as possible.
That's right. I forgot. And they're going to be more. Now, we love underwriters on this call, but we know that they're not always the same direction you are. So now let's show them good news that the buyer's payment goes down, and we're not raising any kind of concern of theirs, and they kind of keep pushing the file forward. And now we have an earlier and smoother closing.
100%. Exactly. If you can get that rate down a little bit, it gets their payment down. It gets their debt to income ratio with everything else down. Maybe in order to get the higher payment, were required to pay some debt off or something to qualify. And now they don't have to do that. Like, it adds so many levels of better to the buyer and the seller.
We should be really talking to 2020 about this, because this makes you so much more valuable, and you can empower agents to really, really offer more. And they should be the one picked, because you have an agent that has no clue, or someone who utilizes this approach. Everyone should be interested in this. The only place I'm wrong is if a seller, oh no, I'm not going to ever do a price reduction. Yes, you will. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
You will.
So
I did a comparison table not that long ago. Well, for my class in January, I did a table that showed, hey, if you were to drop your sales price, lower it down $10,000, or you were to give a $10,000 concession or credit, it benefits the buyer and the seller, because then you're getting your bottom line. You end up with more money because you're paying, everything's based on that higher amount instead of the lower amount.
Right.
It works every time. I can redo this chart every time.
And there's 2 points on that. In an asking price, that's not money. That's imagination money, because it didn't happen. It may happen. It did happen, but it's not today. Plus, longer time on the market is 2 or 3 mortgage payments. That's not fake. That's real.
Real money.
And also, what's interesting, when a seller gives up $10,000, they give up $10,000. When a buyer gets $10,000, they're only paying $1,000 for it. So they're really, what is the buyer doing? They're paying $1,000 less. It's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have a commensurate value. It's like pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, it's way pennies on the dollar for the buyer side, and on the seller side, aren't giving up real money. You're giving up that $10,000 credit that you never had in your pocket. So,
and it was never real. I mean, you could be grossly.
right.
I mean, that means there's people walking around with sales prices that are way out of whack, and then they could be using this money and basically just offer the money, let the underwriter say whether it's okay or not. But some amount will be okay. 2 or 3% will always be okay.
Yeah, definitely. And
That's
3%,
exciting.
unless the only time that you're more limited on seller credits is for an investment property. If you're purchasing an investment property, you're limited to 2% at that point. But
Right.
2 or
And
3%.
I'm really talking about, I mean, our conversation and our realtors are mostly dealing with primary residence and
Yep.
owner occupied. This is your home.
Mostly. Yes, mostly. And that most of those things, 3% is a good rule of thumb. But if you're going with an FHA or VA buyer, you can go higher than that. But 3% is a general rule of thumb across the board.
Right. That's great. And I mean, it may be more necessary in FHA because an FHA is a slightly higher interest rate, correct?
FHA is actually slightly lower than conventional. The mortgage insurance itself is higher, is what usually happens. So your government loan is usually, FHA is a government loan, and that is usually starts with a lower interest rate, where conventional is going to have a higher interest rate, but can have lower mortgage insurance. So sometimes it's a wash. And a lot of right now, the what we call loan level price adjusters on conventional rates for first-time home buyers are really high. Where on FHA, they've gone down. Their mortgage insurance just went down on FHA. So I usually like to compare. There's some people that only fit into an FHA because of their credit and income situation. But there's some people that could go conventional or FHA. And so I'll show them the difference. And sometimes it's almost exactly the same. And you can do a 3% down payment on both on a conventional and then 3.5% on FHA. So they're comparable as far as down payment goes and stuff too.
That's great. That's I mean, it's great that conventional is as low as 3%. And what kind of credit score or debt to income? What are those kind of qualifications?
The conventional, generally, we need to have a 640 or better on that one to get that to go through. Debt to income ratio is limited to usually about 49% on conventional for the overall debt to income ratio for everything. And then your FHA, that one I can do down to 600, and I can go up to, I just got an approval this morning on a 56% back end debt to income ratio. So
Whoa.
they can actually stretch their approval out a little bit further with compensating factors. Yeah, I definitely don't want to put somebody in a house that's house poor at that point either.
Sure. That's really, those have been really attractive, but a little scary, those back end ratios.
Yeah. Well, and usually I'll look at it and see if sometimes there's a spouse that's not on the loan because of a credit issue or something like that, or there's other income coming into the house that we're not considering. So those are generally the ones that I will approve at a higher debt to income because the whole house debt to income is a lot lower than what we're showing on the application.
Good point. That's listen, as I said before, you have to get a bit creative now and you have to really know your stuff. And the agents who primarily are your referral partners, and let's give credit to the agents, including me, they're the ones on their kitchen tables at 8:00 at night, Saturday morning. You're not at a kitchen table. You're not Saturday morning. You may get the calls, but you're not dealing with coffee, breakfast.
I'm not running people to 35 houses on a Saturday or any of that. I'm answering phone calls and making sure they've got numbers on it, but I'm usually sitting on my couch doing that on a Saturday.
Right. You've been, we've had, I mean, I haven't dealt with buyers in a long time, but you'd be stacked up, late appointments, people calling, stress. I mean, I would get home. I go, is it 7:00 yet? I want to go to bed.
Right. Is it time for me to go to sleep yet? I've done too much today. Talking of COVID era, we had some buyers that put offers in on I redid their pre-approval and numbers 22 times one weekend because they kept going to, they wanted numbers on every single house. And I'm like, you know what? I'll do it for you. Just let me know. Send me the address.
Sure.
And pretty soon I was like, you guys actually have to put an offer in on one of these. I'm not going to keep updating it until you give me an actual offer going out here.
Or how about the people who are putting back in not too long ago are putting offers in and you're doing the scenarios and the taxes and it's not their fault. They're just not getting them despite full price offers.
Yeah, no, that was definitely happening for a while where you'd have 5 or 6 offers on the table and somebody offered some crazy 50,000 over asking and cash and appraisal waiver and all this other stuff. And so there was definitely times when people are putting in multiple offers over the last year and a half. And that's a good time, but I'm glad to not be seeing that as much anymore. I'm sure the agent
it's never healthy for such an imbalanced market like that where now the people have no faith in it and they get exasperated and then it trickles down. So right now rents are higher than they've ever been because they realize that that's a way landlords have 25%. And I'm a landlord and I'm also a tenant. So I've seen it on both sides of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Definitely. Because there were so many people getting discouraged with being able to buy a house. They were just went and got a rental. And now that rent, it's insane what rents are out here in Washington. I mean, it's probably not as insane as in New York, but you can't get a rental for what people used to pay $750 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Now you're looking at $2,100 a month, easy. So rent is crazy around here.
Well, my sister-in-law, you want to talk about 2,100? My sister-in-law on Upper East Side of Manhattan, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a 1.5 bedroom. I think she's about 5,500.
Yeah. No, that's insane.
55.
I know that New York is expensive. And what is it, like 400 square feet or something too?
I'm gonna say if I really think about it, probably not 400, of course. That's maybe a student. I'm talking about like 900, maybe close to 11.
That's insane. That's more than
it's
my house payment on my 5,000 square foot house I'm sitting in right now. That's insane.
I know people have no concept and then try to buy, the everything else that goes with it. People pay $500 or $700 a month to park their car in a garage.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's, one more thing we're talking about is lifestyle, is how you're living, how you're enjoying the area, which really drives the market and why you want to be here and enjoy, this is your home. And people talk so much about the money part, but growing up, your home was not about money. Your home was about where you sleep.
Right.
Now these 1 or 2 run-ups before the 2008 run-up and then this run-up, there was a little one in between. Then everyone was talking about rates and equity. I mean, my parents didn't talk about that. You just live there.
No, you just live there. And it was everybody's grandparents saying, pay your 30-year mortgage off, pay your house off before you die. Don't leverage it, or all the different things that we can talk about now and leveraging your current house to buy your next one and whatnot. So it's a different mindset than people were in 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Right. Well, fortunately, I'm sure you're aware, 1997 started the capital gains exemption. So you lived there 2 of the last 5 years. That's pure profit. That's free money.
Yeah. Yeah. Buying a home is one of the easiest ways to start building generational wealth for your family. And you can use one house to build the next one and keep going with it.
I had a friend that got married early so he could sell his house. How about that?
I've had people get married early so they can buy the house.
They were going to get married anyway, but he said, we're going to make 300, 400. Why? He goes, honey, she was happy, but I mean, they rushed it. And I was their lawyer.
That way they can save that gains tax. Yeah, that's a great idea. Because my gains tax is half of what it is when you're married.
Right. Well, that's great if you love each other, but you're going to get married anyway. That's not a good.
Right. I'm not definitely not saying, hey, go marry Joe Blow so that we don't have to pay capital gains.
No. But if you're going to get married in this kind of future,
before December 31st.
Right, and have a free wedding.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think people should come to you and me for free relationship and investing advice.
Yeah, that works. Definitely. Get married to save on capital gains and so you can get your VA loan.
Yep, exactly. But just you got to love each other first.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
No.
That's not easy. So listen, Jessica, thank you. You and I are going to work hard to really create an audience that you think will benefit from this, that's agents and people that really see your expertise. But more important, I think than that is giving agents a chance for them to gain. And I mean, you're the provider of that services, and they're all going to appreciate your sponsorship. So I'm really looking forward to helping you. And
me too.
I get a lot of joy out of that.
This was a great little platform that you've created here. I thank you for bringing me onto it. This is awesome.
This is your interview series. We could do one tomorrow, next week, next month. This is yours. I just budget the time and we rock. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Jessica?
Best way to get in touch with me.
What's the best number this way?
My office line is 253-442-2403. You can call or text me on that. And if you don't get me to answer a text, I will respond to 24/7. Email, you can email me too, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you can find me. I've got my phone in my pocket every day. So anything that goes to
I
my
know.
phone, you can get hold of me.